how do you view global compliance in particular, not just the US, but globally, IC compliance? What do you see the challenges are that customers, national, multinational companies are facing when they're looking for access to that global talent?
Um, there's a multitude. We all know that when you look at independent contractor compliance, right, the ground zero is the U.S. because of the complexities, right? It is the most complex because of obviously national, regional, state, sometimes city aspects that you have to take into account in there.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it makes it more complex. But we also know that when you look at it from a volume perspective, it's the highest volume use of freelancers in a population, right, in total.
Right.
Right. Not as a percentage, although I'd have to go back and look at that data too, or you might have it handy, but we know that percentage of usage and that complexity exists together, right? When we move outside of the US, and to a certain degree outside of Canada, but even especially when we move outside the US, what we see is that your determinations from a worker standpoint are more cut and dry, right? And you helped me with this in the past, right? We've mapped out, does a freelancer require registration? Do they require,
Right.
BST? Do they require VAT registration? What are the requirements of them to be qualified as a freelancer? Now, obviously, there are other things that come into play there, but it is a little bit more black and white, right?
Yeah.
Now, we also see that the engagement aspects of those, right? So how does the client engage the individual? What's the role? What's the pay? What's the investment? What's the risk? All the things that become important, those tend to follow through in country to country, right? At least in
Right.
our process and how we do evaluation.
Yeah.
And what I see from a client's perspective, especially as we start working either on expansion or implementation, and you've probably seen this as well, and a lot of people watching have probably seen it as well, is, part of the problem 9 times out of 10 is they don't even know,
Right.
right? We don't know who we have, where we have, or what capacity we're engaging them in. So part of the initial challenge is always to go in and try to do some digging and unearth. How many people do you have working in this particular country? Are you paying them as an EOR? Are they being paid as an IC? If they're paying as an IC, are they qualified to be an IC? Is the engagement set up to be an IC? And what we're finding is that clients that are risk averse, which they all should be, right, want to know this. Now, we still see clients, you probably see them too, that kind of just want to bury their head in the sand and say, look, I'm not even going to look at it. It's just not important right now until it has to
Right.
become important.
Right.
But
It's not important and it's not a burning bush until it is.